Heart Doha Podcast. My name is Elizabeth Wood. If you haven't heard from me before, I'm the new co-host with this team, and we have an amazing guest on the show today. Her name is Liza Pavlakos, and what I always love to do is start by, instead of me trying to educate you guys about her, I would love for her to take it away so that she does it justice for herself and her story. So without further ado, we've got Ahmed, and we've got Shaheen, and we've got Elizabeth, and we've got Liza. So take it away, Liza, so we learn a little bit about you, and then we'll go with the flow.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll try and keep it as brief as I can.
Why brief? This is a podcast. You can talk as much as you want.
Yeah, I just don't want to bore everybody. But I'll try.
To get it on the mood.
Yeah.
Shahad is very in the texting moment, having a little moment here.
Yeah, that's why they made phones,
Yeah, that's
so
why.
you can text anytime, any place.
Yeah,
Right?
that's definitely. Elizabeth told us about you, and
Yes.
that the way you guys ran into each other in the W. That's a very interesting story. Can you
is.
tell us about it?
So I happened to be at the W, and I
Yeah.
think it was just so organic because I was with my cameraman, and we were shooting. Well, we weren't shooting at that point. We were just chilling out, and then I said, "All right, I'm gonna go upstairs, get ready, so we can do our shoot."
Yeah.
Because I don't always look glamorous. It takes
Yeah.
hard work to look glamorous.
Okay.
So anyway, I got ready, came downstairs, and all of a sudden, Elizabeth was there,
Harriet
was there, and I was introduced to them, and
It was like alignment from the beginning because
So were you guys just attracted to each other like
I
in a
don't know
weird
what
way?
happened.
Like,
I don't know what
is it-
happened.
Is it one of those energy kind of things?
I don't
something
know
like
about
that.
energy.
But I think if I was in my gym gear,
Yeah.
and if I wasn't actually in my mode,
Work
my
mode,
work
yeah.
mode,
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have connected like this.
Definitely
It's
wouldn't.
It's
So
just
it's like, hi, how are you? You look weird, or you look from outside, because usually people who go to the W are from Qatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's no such thing as I don't judge people and say there's an aura about you. You seem like you're
Yeah.
from somewhere else. Just we kind of clicked, and immediately the first conversation was empowerment, coaching, mentoring. Like all these words just came out.
And yeah,
It's organic. Yeah, that's the
and
best
to
word.
me, it actually felt like it was meant to be. It's really weird.
So you found out that you guys are in the same business, or the same
I don't know if you
area
call
of
it
interest?
business. Just
it just
life.
to me, it felt like a sisterhood, and
Yeah.
it felt like I had met someone, and even with Harriet, like I just met someone that I absolutely connected with, and it just felt so easy. And yeah, here we are today.
Yeah, so that was a week ago, and now we're here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So the reason why it's midweek, guys, is because we usually do our podcasts every Saturday, right?
Sure.
The difference is today, Liza is only with us for today, and I think a bit of tomorrow. So
Before I take my flight
Yeah.
back home,
yeah,
That's
so we wanted to nab her, hear her story.
really sweet of them.
Please feel free. This is a platform
Okay.
to inspire the world, to inspire the people of Doha. Let us know a bit about you.
So let me tell you about me. I am 42 years old. I'm a mother of 5 children. I'm a self-made entrepreneur. So I've opened up quite a few businesses. One of the businesses was Miss India International, where I ran an accredited, internationally accredited beauty pageant.
Where was it based?
That was based in Australia
Okay.
for Asian girls of my background.
Specifically just for Asian girls.
Yeah, specifically for Asian girls.
Did you find a rant from other people about that?
No, not really. I mean, I just found
Reverse racism, basically.
something like that. No, I just felt like, I just felt this need to
Yeah.
do this kind of business because I had a message, and I felt that other girls probably in my situation, had similar kind of stories.
But why like brown girls or Asians in general? Is there a specific kind of...
Well,
Lot
I
of
mean, I felt that like with me, I had gone through a lot of adversity, which I was going to go to that.
Yeah.
And I felt that most likely Asian girls or Indian girls or Muslim girls,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, but I felt like they probably had similar kind of adversities. Not exactly the same, but similar in the way that there is some sort of oppression,
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this business. That business was really successful. With zero startup, I made $100,000. After that, I kept on running my Miss India events and then went into a bar and a restaurant business, took over a fledgling restaurant and turned that into something really successful. Not long after that, I opened up a tailoring franchise with my husband, but my business partner at that time. So I had my businesses and he had his stores. We had 5 stores together. And some of my clients include Jay-Z, Michael Bublé.
Really, Jay-Z? Did you meet him in person?
Beyonce, yes. I was hanging out with Beyonce.
I also met Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Really?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So
So
it was very awkward. It wasn't in a hotel. They just were on a stage, and I was in the
there you go.
seats.
So you were at a
but, you know,
concert.
we were like,
You were waving at each other from far
I was
away.
like, Ahmed, I will hook you up with your favorite song. I would like you to just keep it natural.
Keep it
Jay-Z.
natural,
Yeah.
Jay.
Keep it natural, Jay. Just follow your schedule.
Did he do that laugh? Did you do? So did you actually meet him in person?
Yeah. Well, we were in the, hanging out together. My
Yeah.
my son was calling Auntie Beyonce, Uncle Jay-Z. I think Kanye West was also there.
Was that before the Trump phase or?
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
thinks Kanye West was there, but she didn't notice him because
no,
Kanye West
because-
is not that famous. When it
No,
comes
because
to,
it was Jay-Z's birthday party and it was
Oh.
being held in Melbourne.
Okay.
And so my business was called in to help give them the outfits that they needed and alter and tailor the outfits for their dress-up party because it was Jay-Z's special party.
So you would dress up Jay-Z and Beyonce. That's awesome.
we're tailors.
That's really awesome.
You're probably the second tailor we met in this.
Well, I'm not a tailor. I have no clue how to even stitch a button, but my
It's just-
husband is a master
Okay.
tailor.
Okay.
Wow.
Very cool.
I think
So-
I think he needs to show us a little trick or two. Me and him yesterday were driving in the car. We thought about working on a little fashion line, and we thought of like throwing little, economy,
Yeah.
politics, culture, in like our logos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wait for it, and you better buy it.
You mean
Yeah.
watch this space?
Yeah.
Is that-
Watch
Yeah,
out!
I should say.
Watch out for the bad economy.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet for that.
The bad economy clothing line. You know?
Definitely like that.
Well, I'm sure my husband can give you tips.
we definitely need to get in touch
Sure.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear though. I'm excited to hear that that's your entrepreneur background. But what is your passion? Like, what do you live for, and what's changed in the last couple of years for you?
Well, my passion, and I think my passion has always been to empower people. So, yes, I became a very successful entrepreneur, but there is a backstory. So, let me begin with my backstory. Can you hear me clearly, people?
Yeah, it's awesome. Man.
All right.
I'll
So,
just do it for the camera.
You gotta
there,
look perfect.
so there is a backstory. So, the backstory begins. I was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Big fan of Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah. And I came from a really, really, a wealthy family, I'd have to
Okay.
say. My mom was a famous pastry chef, and my father was a radiologist. We had maids, we had drivers, we
Grew up in the bougie side of town.
we had a good life.
Yeah.
But my mom was always so busy, and she was working on TV and all that sort of stuff. Turn on the TV, see mom on TV.
Yeah.
And dad was always busy in the hospital. So they entrusted me with my uncle to take care of me from a young age.
Okay.
We also had maids in the house, but the maids were always in the maids' quarters, doing cooking, doing what they needed to do. What my family didn't know was that from a young age, my uncle was actually sexually abusing me while they were at work.
How old were you?
I think it was like 6 years old when it began, because I remember, most of my days, like I would literally come home from school and I'd be hiding under the bed. And I'd be looking right to left, wondering if his footsteps were going to come in through the door. And sure enough, his footsteps would come in through that door, and he would pull me from under that bed, and he would spend many hours doing horrible things to my body.
Wow.
It was only when I was about close to 7.5, like 8 years old, when I was able to kind of articulate it, because, pedophiles, they tend to groom their victims. And at the same time, he was my uncle that I loved, so I didn't know what was happening.
Your dad's side or your mom's side?
My dad's side. So when I told my mom what was happening, I said, because I saw some people kissing on TV, and I said, uncle kisses me like that, And mom was like, what? But I don't think she really knew how to handle it, because we do come from a culture
Brown
where...
families are especially very, sensitive when it comes to like family stuff.
Well,
like
I've
that.
come to realize now through my work that it's a global phenomenon where people don't actually want to talk about it. Doesn't matter what
Really?
race, what color. Yeah.
You mean so this what you've just explained to us? It gets silenced across everywhere that you've visited, across cultures.
From what I know, it gets silenced a lot. So my parents really didn't talk to me about it. Everything was hush-hush. It was when I was 12 years old, my parents decided to migrate to Australia. And I was really excited to.
And was he still visiting you throughout that? Like that? Or like the...
After I
found out.
disclosed what had happened,
Yeah.
no, I didn't see him.
Okay.
But no one really talked about it.
Okay.
Like kind of swept under the carpet. Okay.
Absolutely
ignored.
swept under the carpet. It was when I was 12, my parents decided to migrate to Australia. And I was really happy about this because it meant that I'd be far away from my uncle.
Yeah.
At 14, we decided to go back home to Malaysia for a holiday to see my grandparents and to see my family, and I was really excited about going home. Unfortunately for me, my first cousin, who I really loved and cared about, one night he raped me. And, you know, as a Muslim girl especially, having been sexually abused and then being raped by my first cousin,
How old were you?
I was 14 years old. I really didn't know what was happening to me. All I knew was that I instantly became sad. So sad that I wouldn't really talk. I became quiet. It was on my way home to Australia when I wrote a letter to my cousin. And I said, what you did was wrong. My uncle did this to me, and then you did this to me, and you know you shouldn't have hurt me. I'm your sister. Yeah. My cousin, in order to stop him from being in trouble, he decided to take that letter when he got it and show it to the whole family to say, Liza is lying. Look at her.
She's accusing me.
She's got problems. And so from the age of 14 and a half or so, I was judged and being put into a basket as if I had a mental issue or something like that. And that's really, really difficult when, you know...
In a very early age, also.
Very, very, very early age. So we came back home to Australia, and all of a sudden it was like my father would start hitting me because he was so angry with me. I was so quiet. Like, I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was that all of a sudden, all I wanted to do was try and attempt suicide. I tried 3 different colorful attempts to commit suicide, each one more graphic than the other. The last one was so graphic that I don't even know if I should say it on this, but it was really graphic, and I'm surprised that I actually survived that attempt.
So what was the emotions that going through at that moment when you're trying to attempt? Are you trying to get revenge from your family that you have to lose me, or did you have some kind of self-interest into that? I want to end this suffering.
It's just for people to understand who either have been through this or haven't. What's the thought process? What's the emotion that goes on for you?
I think I just wanted to end my suffering. And I think I also wanted to hurt my parents because I felt like they, you know, weren't standing by me. And I loved my mom and I loved my dad so much. So that was really, really difficult for me. But I survived that. And I was quite surprised that I was able to survive, because actually the truth is, at the point when I was thinking I was going to die, I actually didn't want to die. What I did, and I will say it here if it's okay, is that I drank a whole bunch of poisons, crazy poisons, mixed it in a glass, went into the bathroom and turned the shower on and sculled it. And as soon as I sculled it, my body actually fell and started convulsing, and foam was coming out of my mouth. And that's when I knew something, like, I'm actually going to die. But I didn't want to die, and I was so afraid. And I remember, like, trying to grab that door, you know, the bathroom,
and call for help,
and unlock it and crawl to my mom and crawl to my dad. And of course my dad sees me, and my dad is so angry with me, and he actually takes a knife out and puts it to my throat to say, if you want to die, I will kill you myself.
This was the last attempt.
That was, no, I've had many attempts.
Yeah.
Because I think I became addicted to suicide. So some people get addicted to cutting themselves or hitting themselves. I became addicted to wanting to take my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I'd survived, I felt that maybe I wasn't destined for death, but I really needed to get out of this environment. So what I did was I ran away from home. And running away from home in Australia, especially when you're an Asian girl, a Muslim girl, it's really, really difficult, because we come from an environment where we're sheltered. There's a lot of love.
Yeah.
So I ran away from home and instantly became homeless and was living on the streets and was like a stray dog, really. But the one thing I knew was that I needed to finish my education. So I put myself into school to do my final year 12. I don't know what it's called here.
12.
Yeah, 12th grade. Yeah,
12th grade.
How did you manage to do that? Like being homeless, like is there like a system that you can just go to school and still go to the street?
Yeah. So if you are
Your teachers didn't suspect it. Your colleagues like showing up in the same
the
clothes.
teacher knew.
every day?
So I rocked up to school and I said, look, I've just run away from home. I've been abused. I've been this. I've been that. And I need to finish my studies.
I need to learn. It's not going to get in the way of anything, right?
And the teachers were like, wow, there's something about this girl.
Yeah.
So they took me in. I didn't have to pay for my education. Sometimes I would sleep in the park bench, but sometimes I would, find...
Were you being harassed throughout this?
No, I wasn't being harassed.
So it was actually more safer in the streets than being home. Huh?
Yeah, it felt like it was safer in the street, but I also became...
The irony of life.
Yeah, it felt like that. But I also then would meet people and then I would stay in their house until my time was up to leave.
Right.
And eventually I ended up saving a little bit of money because in Australia, we're quite fortunate. There is a little bit of government assistance.
Okay.
So the government assistance kicked in and I was able to get shared accommodation just for a little bit. But, I had no skills in how to save money, how to pay rent, how to pay for anything. I was so vulnerable. And there was this guy who said, Liza, you're so pretty. And because I was so vulnerable and I was craving love because I didn't have that love from my mom and dad and that protection from my mom and dad, that I fell into this relationship with this guy.
You were what, 15?
No, by this point I was 17 years old. And I thought he was everything. And I thought I really loved him and I thought he was going to be amazing for me.
Okay.
Unfortunately for me, 6 months into the relationship, he was actually violent. And so he would beat me every
So
time.
was he an
angry.
Australian guy?
He was Anglo-Indian.
Oh,
He was
okay.
Anglo-Indian.
The native.
Yeah, so he was sort of mixed British and Indian, everything in one. And he was really, really, I thought he was really nice, but he had this anger thing that I could never understand. His violence was so bad that on my 18th birthday, he hit me so hard that I had to have my right hand side of my face reconstructed.
What do you mean reconstructed?
Okay, so
like, I need to understand this.
When he hit me, he punched me in my face so bad that my cheekbone cracked and my eye socket also was broken there.
So the orbital
So-
bone of the skull.
So it felt like my face was literally like I had to hold it.
Yes.
That's how it felt. It was so bad. And the pain, I'm telling you, it was so excruciating. And it was like hell. It's such a long story. I've written a novel. And it's
What is it called?
It's called Voiceless No More, A Journey from Terror to Triumph.
That's what we are so excited to hear about, because I'm sure everyone who's listening at home is just in awe of the adversity that you haven't even mentioned the other parts of it.
No,
and
there's a lot. There's a lot.
we're
to
so
come.
curious to hear
There's
about
a
your,
lot to come.
your triumph.
So I've written a novel, and it's got, my aim is to have it traditionally published. And so I'm in my third round of edits because, anyone can write a book and you can just go on Amazon and put bestseller. And really, is it a bestseller or did you pay for it to say the words bestseller? I like to do things and I like to do it authentically. And for me, it's not about selling each book at $29.95 or $16.95. It's actually about getting the message out there. And so for me, the only way to get the message out there is to
So you basically documented your life.
document my life, yes.
Was it emotional throughout the process? I
Took me
tried
5
to do
years.
the same thing when my mom passed away last year.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And thank you. And I tried to write a similar novel that describes the funeral home. Because when I went there, I sat and I observed all the sadness. But yet again, it was so sad, but yet again, so real. There was a mixture of grief, life, a mixture of depth. And I felt like I wanted to document these moments because I don't think I'll ever relive them again because that person was so close. I wanted to take the pain and put it on notes.
Yes.
And
also probably also leave a legacy behind.
True.
Of the love.
True. And to be honest, the more I got into the paper, the sadder that I got.
Yeah.
The more descriptions that I put, the sadder I got. And so I don't know how
if I tell
you managed.
You now, I'm telling you. So it's taken me 5 years to write, and I'm in my third round of edits. Okay. Because when you send it to a publishing house, you have to keep editing it.
Yeah.
Like there's no tomorrow. And so I've had babies ever since. So I've had 5 children, right? I remember being in hospital pregnant, and the nurse would be like, okay, you need to take your sleeping tablets and sleep.
Sorry, pregnant from
This is like later on in life, because I've got 5 kids.
Yeah.
So, because we're talking about, the process of writing the book.
Yeah.
So the nurse would come and she'd say, okay, here's the sleeping tablets to sleep and rest, because you're going to deliver the baby in a few days. I would literally pop those tablets, wait for her to leave the hospital room, right? And then I would take out my laptop drugged and I would start writing my feelings, because especially when I was writing about, the other adversity that I'm about to talk about, it's really difficult, So yeah, writing a book takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Going back, so this guy broke my face.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know whether my face was going to get repaired or not. But alhamdulillah, my face, the surgeon did the best that he could, and it's fine.
And that was at the age of 18, right?
That was at the age of 18. Yes.
And of course, there was questions, police, people.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he pretty much, made sure that nobody.
Was he older than you?
He was a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
So his mother was working in a particular hospital in Melbourne, and I was taken to this particular hospital, and I was so afraid to say that he was the one that broke my face. And I went for counseling in that hospital, and I actually said to them, it's him who did it.
Yeah.
The mother made sure that those hospital records went missing, right? What can you do? I felt actually like everything was my fault. I felt like I shouldn't have stayed in this relationship, and that he was so violent, and I felt so worthless and useless. I mean, I was a runaway, I was in the streets, I was just like everything was my fault, right? Anyway.
Any connection with the fam throughout that?
Not really. I mean,
not even them asking where you were?
I mean, my mom knew when my face was broken, and my mom really loved me a lot, and she I remember coming to the apartment and hugging me and crying, wanting Gary to stop his abuse. But at the same time, I really didn't love my parents, because I felt like it was their fault, because they should have stood up for me when my uncle abused me, and they should have stood up for me when my cousin raped me. Yeah.
True.
So I ended up having the courage to leave this relationship, and I said to myself, okay, I want to put the past behind me, and I want to start a new life, and I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to enroll myself. Even though I didn't get to finish my year 12, I applied for special consideration and got into university to do psychology, because I wanted to understand why I made choices that I made, and I wanted to understand why people, did things that they did.
This is the question phase.
Yeah. Question.
And actually, we are always questioning. Well, a lot of us out there might be listening to your story at home and thinking, what is it that fueled you to go back to abusers, to go back to self-destruction? What is the key
I know
thing?
now, but I'll tell you at the end.
Okay.
I'll know now everything. Like the penny has dropped. If you want me to answer it now, I'll just answer it now.
Now let's go with the flow.
Let's go with the flow.
Okay.
It's all about the flow. And
Yes.
Organic.
So I left him, went into school. Life was good. I was in uni. Got into RMIT, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and I was doing psychology, and life was great.
Yeah.
And I remember this one day when I was walking home from school, and literally the sun was shining, and the birds were chirping, and everything felt like it was so good. And as I was walking home from school, I didn't know that I was being followed, and I didn't know that there was this man who was watching me, and it's a really long story, but to cut a long story short, I was kidnapped off the streets of Melbourne, taken away for about 8 hours, tortured, abused, and almost murdered. If you want me to tell you the whole story of how I actually got kidnapped, like, I think we're going to stay for like 3 hours, and then how I actually got out and how everything. But
Well, we'll need to read the book for that.
you'll
then.
have to
Yeah.
read the book, right? Because
Yeah.
no one's going to want to read my book
Have
if you
you
just
seen
get to hear everything. But I was kidnapped off the streets, and that was really, really harsh. And I remember when he had kidnapped me, and he started driving to this destination. I didn't even know where he was driving, and I remember saying, "What is happening? Where are you taking me? Please, I need to get out of the car." And he actually took me to a busy street in Melbourne. And he said, "I'm going to show you what's going to happen now." And he winds down the window. So it's this much. And he says, "Now I want you to scream for help. And no one's going to care about your existence." And I'm banging on this window, "Please, someone, I've been kidnapped. Please help me, help me." And people are just walking past with their dogs. Everyone's just ignoring me.
The beauty of civilization, as I
And-
always say.
So did you make sure that someone really saw you, noticed you, and kept walking, or
I was like banging on the window because he had basically kidnapped me and I was in his car, right?
So how did he kidnap you? So it was like threatening of a weapon and get in the car, or
So you want to know the whole story.
or
So
is
no
it-
one's going to buy my book now.
no? I think there is a lot of details, you know.
All right, okay. So,
How he did it.
Yeah, just
Basically.
okay, so
get in the
basically,
car. I can drive you home, or
okay, no.
That's so
Sorry,
cliche,
I was
by the way.
walking home to school. I was walking home, and his car happened to be parked, in this particular spot. And he said, "Hey, hi,"
Creepy man, I was
right? I was like, "Hello, hi. You are gonna be the next Nike model."
There we go.
There you go.
So taking advantage of your vulnerability
Yeah.
and your
And
need
I was
for
like,
love.
"No, it's okay. No, you're gonna be the next Nike model. Look, let me show you." And then somehow it was those days where you could press a button on the phone and the phone would ring, and he'd be like, "Yep, I've got her. Oh my God, she's so beautiful. Nike model, yes, blah blah blah." And we had Channel 10 studios. Channel 10 is like this major TV network in Melbourne. And it was just not fun. He goes, "I'm from Channel 10," and he shows me his folders. And he goes, "I'm from Channel 10, and I work there, and I'm part of marketing." And then his phone would ring again. "Yes, I've got the girl. She's really beautiful. Yeah, okay, I'll find." And he's like, "Do you want to be a model?" And I had no money. I was struggling for rent, and I was really insecure. And I was like, "Yeah, no." My gut was telling me something wasn't right about it. But he convinced me to just get in the car and write your details down and ask your parents, and we'll call you. I didn't fully get into his car. I had one leg out of the car and the other leg in, and I just wrote my details as if I was writing like my parents' details. But it was so quick. It was a matter of like 10 seconds. Before you knew it, he was in his car. He accelerated, and then he does this turn in this car, and my body just bang falls in, and then the door goes lock.
That's a professional kidnapper. He must have done that,
I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And sometimes I wonder now, even
You've
as
been through a lot.
Well, I wonder as an international motivational speaker, like why I, tell this tale over and over again. And it's never easy,
Yeah.
The amount of crying that I do is phenomenal. But
On a daily basis, even till.
yeah, of course, I do. Because it's hard. It's hard. But then on the flip side, you see people being empowered.
Yeah.
And then you see that yours is not the only story. There are so many people out there with different stories. And if there's one thing I've learned is that adversity gives you wisdom. When, they say diamonds are made from the harshest, environment right down there.
Yeah, and under pressure.
Under pressure.
Crazy pressure.
Right?
Right.
And so I feel through my adversity, the diamonds within has been exposed, you know, and I have this phenomenal wisdom, this phenomenal understanding. And so, you know, that's why I do what I do now. I'm so passionate about it. But yeah, I understand adversity. I understand what it's like to be kidnapped. And that 8 hours that he had me, that was sheer and utter hell. I mean, there was one thing that he did where he literally said to me, okay, I didn't have, like, I just had a bra on and just a skirt. And he said, I want you to get out of the car and I want you to walk from this tree to this tree. And my handbag is in his car. And he goes, and if you don't come, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to kill you.
Were you in the middle of nowhere?
I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I didn't know my surroundings. And I'm walking, you know, from one tree to another tree. And I'm thinking if I just run,
What will happen?
There's nowhere to run. He was screaming at me. He was yelling at me. He was literally dehumanizing me. And when I was in the car, and then I was naked for the last bit, like fully naked. And he has a knife, and it's like, you know, this big. And he takes it and he puts it around my chest, down to my stomach, and up my chest, down to my stomach. And he says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the chance to say your last rites. And I didn't know how to say the Shahada then. Like, even though, we're Muslims, but I didn't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Because I was in such a panic sort of state. But I knew, because I was so exhausted, it was like so many hours, and I knew that when you're naked and you've got a knife and he's actually telling you what's your last rites, I knew that was it. I'm going to get murdered. So I started to look up to the sky, and I started to visualize the gates of heaven actually opening. And I think I didn't realize it then, but now I realize the power of mind shift can take you places that you never thought imaginable. I didn't realize that what I was doing was mind shifting. I didn't know that what I was actually doing was manifesting. But I looked to that sky and I said, I'm going to go to Allah. And I looked at this man and I said, well, where are you going to go? Right? And this is my theory now, is that men who do this kind of acts, because I've looked at a lot of case studies, because I've had interest in this, to understand like how this and why this happens, whether to blame myself or not. They're not actually wanting to have sex with that woman alive. They actually want to just hear that woman scream, and they want to torture that woman. Like, that's the high that they're getting.
Okay, so it's a psychological distortion for the man, or those types of men who
for the person who does that.
Okay, so it's like a sickness. It's a sick, twisted way. It's like what you see on the movies. It's a sick, twisted way, and they're not actually interested in taking advantage of you the way that we, or people who haven't been through that, would assume that he's going to rape me, he's going to murder me. Yeah. They actually just want the thrill of it in a sick kind of way.
Yeah, he actually wanted to cut me up and then throw me in the river, bury me in the woods.
So how did you get away from that? Like,
I will tell you seriously.
Yeah.
Allah saved my life.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can say. If I tell you it's me, it's my negotiating skills, it's this, it's that, then I'm not doing justice.
Yeah.
To Allah, to God, to the divine source. I can definitely say it was that saved my life, because I had such a calm over me and I was ready for death. I was literally ready. And I understand this because there was the Bali 9. I don't know whether you heard of the Bali 9.
No, not really.
The Bali 9, there were these boys who were convicted of drugs in Bali for carrying drugs. And so some of the boys had to have the death sentence.
Okay.
And when...
Were they tourists?
They were Australian boys, tourists. And, Bali is against drugs, and if you're caught with drugs, you get murdered. And we heard, and Australian news, we were watching this. their death live. Of course, we weren't seeing actually what was happening, but at the very moment where they were being shot in the head. And it is said that these boys, as they were being shot, or just when they were about to get shot in the head, they started singing the song, Music of God. And they just sang away and they got shot. And I understood that because when I was about to get murdered, I was just ready to go to God. So there was a calm in me, and this guy just sort of didn't know what to do in that moment. And
do you think maybe you threw him off track because whoever
Definitely.
he's abused before has not reacted that way, and he's like, hey, where's my kick?
Because he was waiting for the screaming and the
screaming and the-
begging
yeah.
to
Yes.
go forward,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah.
You
you
didn't give him what he wanted.
yeah, and I've looked at other case studies in around the world, and one in particular in Australia, where this woman, she fought back, and when you fight back, it's like then the rage is even more, and then they end up choking you, and then you die. So, and because I was groomed from a young age to appease my uncle, to do what I was told, to freeze, I knew how to freeze when I was, being abused, and it's like I just don't fight back, because fighting back means
Giving them what they want.
giving them what they want and possibly losing my life, because I can't tell the man's strength and what will happen.
Yeah.
Fight back, that knife was going to go and slice me, and then all of a sudden he's like, all sorts of things could happen. So when I noticed there was this calm between me and him, I just looked at him, and all of a sudden these words started coming out of my mouth, words that I never would even say because I'm actually quite conservative in my own way. And I said, well, you don't want to kill me. That's not what you want to do. You want to sleep with me, and I want to sleep with you. So you're going to let me go. And let me go and let me, go to my son and my husband. And of course, I didn't have a son and I didn't have a husband. And I will come back to you, and I'll come back to you at midnight, and blah, 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 blah. And I pretty much negotiated my release. He let me go. And he said that he would be back at a certain time to pick me up.
Yeah.
Of course, when I went back to that spot,
Yeah.
At midnight, I was with the police.
Okay.
So straight after when I was released, when I got home, I said, what do girls do after they've been raped? Or what do they do in movies? Because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Or they get into the bathtub and they start, showering, and they start scrubbing and they start hitting themselves. And that's exactly what I did. I got into the bathtub and I started screaming and I started hitting myself, and I was just like taking the soap, wiping myself, and the phone rings, and it's one of my girlfriends, and I pick it up, and she says, oh, how are you? Do you want to go out? And I was like, no, I met this guy and he took me, and I was naked and he was going to kill me, and I'm supposed to meet him at 12. I actually went mad, like I didn't know what was happening. My friend just put down the phone, she called the cops. Before you knew it, there was like a knock on my door, and I was shaking to open the door because I thought it was him, but I had like 8 police members. They all marched into my house. They started wiring up my place. They took control, and they said, if you want to capture this guy, we're going to have to go back to that place. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back. And they said, no, we're all with you. And they went back to the place, and the police had a whole sting operation where they had unmarked police cars and everything. And sure enough, this guy turned up, and
Was he white?
and he was caught. Yeah, he was white.
Okay.
And he was caught. He was, European.
Yeah.
And he was caught by the police. Alhamdulillah, he was caught by the police. It went to trial.
Yeah. Did you witness?
And
the
I
trial?
thought this is great. Got the support of the police. Now he had the QC, which is like the Queen's Counsel in Australia, like the highest level of protection. I don't know.
How does that go? Like, what was he mental? So he had like. Can you explain that? Like, what do you mean? Like,
So he had a really, really, really good barrister, really good, like the highest level of lawyers that you could have. And I had.
Was he rich or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And to cut a long story short, the judge said to me, well, I was being questioned by his barristers. Is it true that you were abused as a kid? Yes. Is it true that you were raped by a cousin? Yes. Is it true that you committed suicide? Yes. How many times did you commit suicide? Yeah, these number of times.
So you're almost the crazy one right now.
Yeah.
You're being interrogated as the crazy.
Totally.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, they say, oh, we want to call upon a witness. And this guy comes into the room. I don't even know who this man is. And he gets up there and he says, I know this woman. She is his lover. She doesn't have money. She's poor. And she's trying to scam him, but they're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
So the whole thing was fabricated. And I didn't know what was happening. And this man got away with it.
Wow.
And
That's what I always used to say. The law doesn't mean justice.
I
Not at all.
and I was shocked because I walk out of this courtroom and all of a sudden there's the media there and people are taking photos and what do you have to say and I was like, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter who says what, Allah is watching. He's the judge. And you must always find the strength to stand up and speak out.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing for me was to actually try and continue with my life and just try and pick it up again because I had just picked it up from having my face reconstructed. Now I'm having to pick it up from being almost murdered and the person getting away with it. So I felt like I was insane, like I had a problem, Not long after that because I was so
So
vulnerable.
that was in the year of what?
I was then 19.
2000.
Like, is it?
I'm 42 now. I failed maths.
Oh, that was like 20 years old. Back in the 1980s around.
Yeah.
Not even internet. Nobody would hear who you are. Nobody know your story.
It was in the press. There's a newspaper article. And there's all the police transcripts, so I don't really, My story seems so far-fetched. But the one thing that is so good is that I have so many friends that I've been friends with from back in the day.
Yeah.
And I say to my friends now, some people think like this is too crazy. And they're like, well, there's so many of us that know your story.
Yeah.
You
How
know?
did you carry from, rape attempts, abusement, kidnapping, almost getting killed? How did you manage to reconstruct all this pain and somehow pick up yourself and
Good question.
turn it into triumph? Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, you got the whole room on silence. Like everybody's just shocked. So how did you manage to do that?
Well, not long after that, I'll tell you how I managed it.
Yeah.
And you might not like to hear what I have to say, but I'm not upset with myself
Yeah.
with what I had to do to cope
Yeah.
at that time. About a year later, I was so vulnerable. I literally had no one. And the guy who broke my face, he would come back and he was like, I love you, and then slap again. I love you, and then a harder hit again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, just leave me.
Yeah.
Then he rapes me.
Yeah.
And I am pregnant.
Wow.
So I then, 20 years old and pregnant with no one, nothing, and I don't know what to do. I could have terminated the child, but I had no one and absolutely nothing.
So you thought this kid would be your friend?
I thought this kid, I felt, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I felt that for the first time I was loved.
Yeah.
For the first time I was loved. And I can safely say that my son Adam saved my life. Safely say that.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I didn't even know that when you're pregnant, that your tummy actually gets big. I didn't even think about that.
No relation still with the parents, huh? Not even a call. Do you have siblings, by the way?
I have 2 brothers.
What about them? Were they anywhere in your life around now?
I think they just felt that I was a hot mess.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do. My youngest brother, he was so young, it wasn't his fault. He didn't know anything. And my older brother, he also had his journey and didn't know how to handle what was going on. My mom was just a mess because she was in a relationship with my dad, who actually turns out to be, not the best father figure at all.
Yeah.
So it's really just a pattern of abuse after abuse. Everybody's having their own little story, So I'm pregnant and I have this baby and I'm just this kid. And this was the point where after I've had this baby, I say to myself that I need to feed him and I need to, provide for him. I couldn't get a job at McDonald's. I couldn't get a job anywhere.
He didn't want to be a part of it, though?
No, nobody wanted to be a part of it.
Not even the father?
No, no one wanted to be a part of it. But that's okay. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I started a business because
did you have money?
I didn't have any money, but I had a baby.
You're kind of cracking the famous quote that says you need money to make money.
No, you don't need money to make money.
So you were 20 years old, you're in college.
I was 21 years old,
Oh.
not in college now. I've just given birth to a baby.
Uh-huh.
And
I'm looking for a job.
No, I knew I had to start this business.
What was it?
And that's why I went into Miss India International.
Okay.
Because I felt that there were other Asian girls
You are silenced, yeah?
who are silenced because they're forced for arranged marriage or this or that.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I went into this business and zero startup. I had a baby in my arm and I went, place to place saying, so I went to the printers and I said, I need posters for my event. I'm not going to pay you, but I'll pay you after the event. They said, all right, okay. I went to the venue and I said, I need this whole venue. I will pay you after the event. I'm going to have this show. I went to sponsors. I need a mobile phone so the winners can get it. I need a plane ticket, to
I'll
India.
make it happen, I promise.
Just
Yeah.
everything. And worked really hard to create this event. I didn't even have models, but I found myself candidates. My first show, to cut a long story short, made $100,000.
That's amazing.
And that's probably the first day that I felt power. So I was
Real
on stage,
power, real
I was on
truth.
stage, and I was like,
Did you feel success?
I felt amazing,
Yeah.
and I actually felt strong. But it doesn't matter how much money you make, depression somehow will come on and catch on to you.
Money never bring you happiness, huh?
No, it doesn't bring happiness. And also now, because I'd had this man's baby, and all he wanted to do was to hurt me.
Now when you're famous and you have money, you want
I
to be a
wasn't
part?
famous. I was far from famous, but
Yeah.
I had a business. So he would come and he would still hit me
Again.
again.
Oh, wow.
And that's when my father comes into the picture and says, you know what, Liza? You're not living for this baby. You're not living for yourself now. You're living for this baby, and you're going to have to get married. And if not to him, you're going to have to marry any man who's going to want to marry you. My mom and dad basically said, because I'm carrying apparently
An
You know,
illegitimate child. Like
yeah.
I said.
a child, and it's not good. So I'm forced for marriage to this guy, that I shouldn't marry because he's violent. I care for him, but I don't know if I care for him, but yet he's belting me every time. And so in order to numb my pain from what I was going through, I became a drug addict.
Uh-huh.
And I don't blame myself for having gone down that route because I needed something to numb my pain to protect myself,
Get you out of reality for a while.
get me out of reality. And in Australia,
Hendrix style, basically.
having all that is really easy.
Yeah.
But alhamdulillah, I was wise enough to know that eventually drugs it's just a false sense of happiness, and you're going to lose your child because Department of Human Services,
They'll take him
they will
away
take
from
him
you. yeah?
away, and I didn't want to lose my baby, so I
Yeah.
kicked off my drug habit. And I kept on being an entrepreneur, and as the power grew, and eventually I had the strength to actually leave him, and became this fully fledged single parent. Before I knew it, I took over a failing bar and a restaurant, that became successful, and I'd cook all this food and people would come and say, oh, your food is so good, Liza, it's so amazing. And it just gave me more and more strength to feel like I had, some value.
Yeah.
And that's when I met my husband, who was a customer in my cafe. And I also knew him from when I was younger, and we got married. We've had 4 other beautiful children.
Did it affect your marriage somehow, being all abused somehow, in a way?
Very much so. He has a very hard time with me. I'll tell you that. He has a very hard time.
I mean, you're a different kind of woman in that story, in a sense. Like, you're mentally, disturbed, emotionally, like...
No, he has a hard time with me in the way that possibly I now am a very strong woman, And so you can't come and tell me, I don't like you wearing that, or where are you going? You should have asked my permission. I'll be like, what did you say to me? You're my best friend. I'm your best friend. We don't own each other because no one has ever owned me.
Yeah.
So he has a hard time in that way,
It's always interrogating for men somehow.
Huh?
A woman with a personality is always an issue for them.
Was there any situation where you, in the beginning, where you cannot trust him because, he's gonna be like all other
Accused
men?
of being selfish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Selfish. You love yourself more, like stuff like that.
Probably. I think so.
Or
But
you're gonna be just like one of them? Or...
Was he? I
Probably
feel like
not.
sometimes going through something similar like that, men would have to work extra to win your love, or to continue having it.
To get your trust,
Yeah.
no, I mean, look, I just think he understands me, and he's a really busy man. He's busy with his business. He's very successful in what he does.
So you met her, and you how old were you?
When I got together with Nick, my son at that point was 2.5.
Yeah.
So you're like 24 years old now.
Yeah.
You got married young.
I all I wanted to do.
And there is a lot of things happening in your life, so that things that happened before
Listen,
seem
the things you've been through in a way in her life. Not a lot of people could. She lived like lifetimes, like all these experiences, and
that's why I'm trying to keep track of age. There's
like,
so much happening. I'm trying to keep track of age at that time.
Also for us to resonate, because what was everyone else doing when they were 24? How everyone
Normal
who's
life.
watching, all of us when you were 24, what had you experienced?
Wow.
And it just puts things into perspective, because now we're so curious to understand how can someone overcome adversity, which is actually what you do when you motivate the youth and you motivate these other women who have been abused. What is that message for us all to hear?
Well, I found what happiness really is now. I didn't know it then, even after I married Nick, because I became very hungry for power, extremely hungry for success.
Yeah.
And so I kept on opening up businesses, closing businesses, business, and started getting clients. And then I had benchmarks that I set for myself. I said to myself, okay, I want a Centurion card.
What?
A Centurion card, that black card, because I saw Beyonce had a Centurion card.
You know what a centurion is?
What?
It's like an
Someone
action.
who's lived for 100 years?
No, he's actually like a general in the Roman Empire.
Right.
Centurion, like the highest grade of a general.
Well, there's this card. It's by American Express. It's called the Centurion card, and it's made of titanium. And when I was sitting with Beyonce, she had a Centurion card, and I said, I want a Centurion card.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to hit benchmarks. I want to go to Chanel's apartment. I want to be invited to Chanel's apartment. Then I found out about this exclusive handbag called the Birkin. Yeah. And apparently.
And this kept you motivating to work harder, make money, and to get to the
Was it
car.
somewhat materialistically driven in order to cover your pain from whatever you've experienced? So now this is the high life, and
no, I don't know if it was
useless consumerism to fill the void.
No. Yes, one of that.
Yeah.
But I think also because I was discriminated against, like I was branded as someone with a mental problem or someone, just sheer discrimination.
Did you lose faith in humanity at some point?
Yes, very much so. I tried suicide so many times.
Yeah.
But after I had my kid,
yeah,
I made a stop to that.
Yeah.
And then I shifted my pain into power, because then when I became an entrepreneur and my businesses turned to be successful, then it was like, all I want to do is to, get this Centurion card, buy a Birkin, buy a Mercedes, just all those things. I wanted to accumulate them. But nothing made me happy. And even though my business was successful and we bought houses, sold houses, I felt like something was missing, because every time I turned on the TV, if I would hear about a woman being murdered or a kid being kidnapped or something, I felt like I wasn't living my life's purpose. And so that's when I said to myself, you know what, I need to do something about it. I need to write a book so I can leave a legacy for my children.
So now you're not really seeking finance. You're seeking more of like helping others in a way.
Well,
The money came, and then now you're seeking something different than money.
Like a bigger purpose, something to give back, contribute to other people's lives.
The strive never stops. When people sometimes they strive for money, when they come to the money, they feel like there's something more than money in life.
Well, I think for me,
money wasn't the purpose.
No, and I didn't realize that until I had to go for some operations where I had to have a radical hysterectomy. And the oncologist said to me at that time, we need to see whether what you have is actually cancer, whether it's spread through your blood or not. And then I was like, what are you talking about? And that's when I thought, now with my 5 kids, I actually feel like I am actually going to die. But hang on a minute, I don't want to die.
It's too early for it.
Because my kids need to know mommy's story, and I need to leave a legacy.
Do they know that?
They know it very well now, because it's all out in the open. And of course, before
So you never sat them down and just told them, listen.
Well, I sat Adam down, and I said to Adam, look, mommy's going to come out, and we're going to talk about how you were conceived. Are you okay with that?
Okay, so you're asking his permission as an individual.
Yes, I said, because the truth will always set you free. And he said, you know what, mommy, if we can save people's lives,
let's do it.
And change the stigma, it's fine.
And Adam is a grown boy now. He's 25.
21.
21.
And he's so beautiful. He's a really beautiful kid. And yeah. So I wrote a book, and I'm still writing that book because it's in its 3rd round of edits, and it should be published soon, inshallah. And now I'm a motivational speaker, and I travel the world speaking. So I've just come from Africa, and I did.
What part of Africa?
I was in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I was in the girls' correctional center there. And I was
a lot of rape stories, a lot of issues.
Yeah, I was talking to the girls, and I was like, I say to the girls, okay, so tell me how many times you've been raped, and I'll tell you how many times I have. Okay, you've been raped, but have you been kidnapped?
Yeah.
I'm still there. And I'm like, there is nothing that you can say that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people in correctional centers and everything.
Sorry, we're just gonna. Can you check the live story for us again? If it needs to restart or the phone died. What? Just give me a second.
Try to save it first. And
Save it and share,
And we are still going with the recording.
Yeah, we're still saving.
So you're in Nigeria now, challenging girls that I have been
boys,
through wars.
And not just Nigeria, Philippines, USA, I travel the world speaking. And now it was quite a surreal experience, because I was in Nigeria and I was in bed, turned on the TV, and there I am on the news.
Yeah.
Great. And
I was in Nigeria, I heard they're very friendly people.
They're beautiful people. There's something about Nigeria that is just so amazing, and it is the resilience in the people.
We know less of Nigeria, to be honest.
Oh, Nigeria is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. The world,
We know less of the world.
Yeah, well, the world is a beautiful place. The world is. I mean, there's a lot of darkness everywhere as well.
Of course.
There's also a lot of light. So now I'm a speaker, fully fledged speaker, and sometimes, I see my profile in Europe, you can see me next to Richard Branson, all these big faces.
Yes. I had to look you up, and it wasn't that hard actually to find information, and several organizations that have your profile and your resume and the background story and the YouTube videos and the photo sessions, the incredible photo sessions that you take.
Yes. I think everything, any business, yes, I have this adversity, but I'm also a self-made entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I think any business is all about marketing and branding. And I didn't necessarily go to school to study any of this, but, I've learned, from a young age, what's needed in the market. Find a need, fill a need, and make sure you market it properly. And so, with our brand, we try and market it as best as we can to tell the story.
So how would you then, it's almost like from darkness to light. I know it sounds cliche, but you said there's lots of darkness in the world and there's lots of light too. On the light of your story, what do people out there need to know, even if they haven't suffered, right? Even if they haven't been through the same adversity, everyone goes through pain and mountains of their own, every single person.
Okay, this is what they need to know. Khalil Gibran, he's a famous poet.
Oh, of course.
And Khalil Gibran wrote, "Life asked death, why do people love me but hate you? Death responded, it's because you are a beautiful lie and I am the painful truth." So what people need to know is that regardless of what happens in your life, life is really, really short. And it's up to you to be responsible enough in your own life to make your life happen instead of waiting. I mean, I think the fact that the court system failed me and everybody around me failed me, okay, and guess what? I didn't fail myself.
You had to get your right by yourself.
Yeah. I didn't fail myself. And you know what? God works in wonderful, wonderful ways, because now I'm 42 and in Melbourne right now, when I go back, there's going to be a court case because there's going to be a whole litigation thing with the Australian court system. And, you know, my victims of crime case is actually being reopened. Right. And now at the age of 42, I can actually make change, and I can actually say the Australian court system failed me. And
you have the freedom to go and do that.
I have the strength to do it now more so than ever, you know.
And there's people who are open to hear right now, you know.
Not everybody is open to hear.
Yeah.
Okay? People do want to hear how people climb mountains and, you know, how people, you know, inspirational people that, you know, overcome a lot of sports adversity, or, you know, or corporate or business keynotes. And I talk about things that aren't so easy to hear sometimes. But what I do talk about essentially is about how to attain a phenomenal mindset and how to trust in life, and especially trust in yourself.
And actually make the choice to be happy, make the choice to succeed, make the choice to not be the victim anymore.
100%.
Yeah? Okay.
Pity is poison.
Pity is poison.
This is what I really believe. Pity is poison.
You know, in the past couple of
self-pity,
days,
Yes.
in the past couple of days, I've been going through a couple of stories because as we live in the Middle East, we're living in troubled times. You know, the development strategies are not supporting the youth finding the proper empowerment. A lot of young, strong minds are being neglected or not probably even getting, you know, the proper credit they deserve. And within this, you know, havoc little mess, I'm sitting there and observing how it is. And a lot of them, they shift to the West to find their future. And it's very disturbing as a man who loves the Middle East, and I love the culture and I love the backgrounds, you know, coming from North Africa, living in the Gulf and vice versa. I really believe that I've been telling a lot of these youth that education, because I'm a big fan and I'm a pro of education. Education is not the kind of way for you to find a job, but it's for you to actually find and develop your skills and your mental state to become a proper, strong individual that can know how to handle all the different, you know, bumps along the road. And because I felt like, because, you know, my brother today was telling me, I don't want to go to school because a lot of these educated young men, they can't find justice, they can't find work, they can't find happiness. They're just sitting at homes. And the uneducated are the employed ones, and the educated ones are the unemployed ones. And I have a, you know, a little young 18 years old kid saying these stuff, and I didn't know how to talk back to him. And I was like, you know, sometimes you really just need to focus on yourself. You need to find your way. You know, life is not easy. Don't expect that, you know, people are going to give you things.
100%, yeah.
They're not going to, like, you know, the justice system, like you said, it failed you. Don't expect, because a lot of people that would go to the justice system, they assume this is the higher.
Higher power, and I'm going to come out on top. It's not always the case.
It's going to give you what you deserve, but you're never going to get what you deserve. You're probably going to crack every bone in your face and in your body in order for you to get that, what you deserve. Life is hard. Like you said, there's a lot of evil, but where's the light? Where are we going to find that light to actually empower ourselves?
And actually, what's more inspiring, that at the end of the story, you're telling us that the world is a beautiful place.
It is very much so a beautiful place. And education is definitely, you know, the key to empowerment, you know. Education through your life and the wisdom that you've learned through your adversity. one thing, I always wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, and I feel like those things were robbed from me at a very young age. But now I'm an international motivational speaker.
But this is
which
your
is great.
truth. This is your truth, and this is the way it's supposed to be.
This is the way it is.
Mhm.
But what I do know is that there is a lot of disempowerment in the world. So I'm in the process of building an online leadership school.
Okay.
And looking to raise funds for that, and inshallah, the funds will be raised. And it's really simple. It's an online leadership school with Australian accredited, training, with trainers coming on board, an online platform. And all it is for anyone in death row, anyone in New York, in USA, anyone in any Africa, Philippines, anyone who can speak English, who wants to do the education, they can do it for free online.
Okay.
And it's foundation studies, basic customer service, basic numbers, and they get a certificate. And so there's no excuse for the person in the slum in Africa to say, I couldn't take a flight because I to study in
because
Australia.
I'm poor or because I'm abused.
So this
right?
way they still get to do the online course and get certified, and hopefully have a shower and go and get a job. Something like, just have the will to say, I can do this.
Yeah, but it's not that easy. Sometimes it's not even about a degree, because you as from the third world country, it's very hard for you to be mobile and to move from your country to another, especially
but that's why you don't need to. You can still do the course online
for free,
and have that certificate and be able to go and apply for a job. And countries where there's a huge population, there's also a huge ability to have economic growth through a small business that you might want to run. I think for me, the one thing that I've learned to understand is that power comes from economic growth. Power comes from when you are able to stand on your own.
On an individual base, or on a more of a collective kind of society base? Do you believe in that? Do you believe that empowerment comes within the economical strength of an individual, starting their own small businesses?
Yeah, I do believe in that.
Because I kind of...
And also working in a company and moving up within that company through entrepreneurship.
I kind of have another view, which is my political background view. I believe that growth and development comes when there's a proper governing, there's a proper state governing. You know what I mean? I look at the world from a political point of view.
Right.
And I believe that if there is a proper justice system, a proper democratic kind of governing, a free kind of market, but yet again surveyed, in case of little, like they say, cracks. But this is when people can actually, justice makes people grow.
Yes.
Even if on a little minimal level,
Yes.
we still need justice.
Look, the guy who I had the baby with, Adam's, I don't know, father, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, I got justice. He got criminally convicted for what he did. That's great. He doesn't live in the country because he doesn't want to ruin his reputation, and that's fine. I don't really care.
Yeah.
A lot of them, my uncle hasn't had any justice. My cousin hasn't had any justice.
Yeah.
And the kidnapper, well, he didn't get the justice that he should have gotten. I think justice is important, but I am a huge believer on focusing on oneself, because we don't have the time to sit here and see who's going to be convicted and not convicted, and time is of essence. So spend that time to work on yourself.
Yeah. So go inner, go deeper, in order to be successful. And we say, even in the coaching world, we say we can only coach ourselves, the person in front of you. If you go to a coach, you cannot be responsible or accountable for that guy over there, or the husband at home, or the criminal over there.
Exactly.
But you have full control over yourself and your choices.
Exactly. Definitely.
So that's what we're running out of time, but it's been so awesome having you here. And is there anything that you would like to leave the impressionable message of people who are at home listening to you after all of that, after all the adversities? What is the key takeaway here today? The key takeaway, and for us,
I think the key takeaway is that there is support out there. With social media,
It's the key now.
Huh?
I believe social media is the key.
The new key. Yeah.
And especially with technology, you're able to do anything. If you can see it, then
Visualize it.
If you can visualize it, if you can believe it, then anything can can come into fruition. And I also know that, you know, money doesn't actually bring happiness, because now I'm living a life, I think, with its truest purpose of empowering others. And now I'm really happy. I actually don't even walk around with my Birkins. I don't even have a Centurion card anymore, because it's all BS.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, Shaheen, Ahmed? Because I remember when you said, if you just give me $1 million, it was on the WhatsApp chat. I just need $1 million, and then I'll be right.
Yeah, she
You
was
guys
talking
had
that,
that
she's talking that coaching actually for people who don't have
Money.
So in order to be your client, I need $1 million.
Yeah.
And then I can be your client.
You know what? I just want to say that democracy is not the answer. It's the way to the answer. And money is not also the answer, but sometimes money is the tool to the answer.
Yes.
Money
is good.
Money is good. It
Of course,
helps.
it's important.
It eases a lot of stress out, and it could actually make you focus on yourself more than.
Money is important to be able to put a roof on your head, to buy
course.
food and whatever. And it's nice to have some nice things, but I went the other way of really, you know, wanting to have access. And it's nice to have good things, but I tell you, true happiness comes from empowering other people.
Also having a good family.
And making an
Yes.
impact in people's lives, and you can see
Having beautiful
change.
kids.
Beautiful children, 5 beautiful children,
Yeah.
a husband that's, you know, it's wonderful, and amazing friends. Like, I've just made, you know, 3 amazing friends here in
course.
Doha.
Oh, thank you.
How nice is that?
And not to forget
Yes.
the people you meet along the way,
Oh,
and
my
in
goodness,
Lagos and in
People
Nigeria
in Philippines
Philippines.
and
Continues.
yes.
Tayyip Saleh, famous Sudanese novelist, considered to be one of the best in the 20th century. He wrote The Season of Immigration to the North.
Okay.
And he said, under this beautiful sky, we're all brothers.
Yes.
Translating that, تحت هذه السماء الجميلة نحن كلنا أخوة. And this describes the moment that you just said you met beautiful friends, and under this beautiful roof, we're all, you know, sisters and brothers in life. You know what I mean? So it was actually a pleasure having you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much
you.
for
I
sharing.
really appreciate it.
Yes,
It's
hope to
actually
see
a
you.
dream come true being here and having this moment with you guys.
Yes, everybody likes a microphone and to talk whatever he wants to talk about. You know?
it's not
That's
that.
what
It's
IHeart
just-
Doha provides you for.
You know, we're in the Middle East, and we're able to empower so many people.
Of course.
You know, and
Yeah.
anyone out there who's going through any kind of adversity, you know, you're not alone, and you can get out of it. Seek out for help. Seek out for support.
I think what we also want to end on is the positivity of life and the idea that, you know, crap happens. We had this discussion before about you saying that it shouldn't all be happy, lucky, and yay, and woohoo, let's talk about happy stuff. It needs to be real sometimes.
Yeah.
Give people the space to talk about adversity and then talk about success and how they overcame that. And I think that all of us have that story. We have a different or many different stories
On many different levels.
on different levels, different
Wow.
times.
If you guys ask me seriously, like, Liza, if you could change anything, would you redo your life that you never went through that? I would have to say to you, you know what? I'm glad I went through everything, because it's given me this wisdom, you know, and the patience and the empathy to understand other people.
So that's
Amazing.
Amazing. It is.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're glad to be a part of all these beautiful people, share their stories, share their knowledge. Until we meet again, this is Shaheen.
This is Elizabeth from Inspire Me.
This is Liza Pavlakos. You can find me on social media. I'm all up in there.
Ahmed Jahada, and we will sure see you again when you publish your novel.
Inshallah.
You're looking
I want a free
forward-
copy.
Yes.
Definitely.
And a signed copy. A signed.
Definitely. Inshallah.
Thank you.
Can't
Take
wait to see
care.
you guys soon.
Take care.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Shimon. Wow. Wow.
Was that too long?
Wow. It was wow, sir.
Really?
This is amazing.
Really?
Yes.
Was it? See, I can never tell. And I just went out like
Because
I
you're
hear-
the one in it. You're here.
Yeah. I'm like, is it still recording? If it's recording,
It's okay. It's authentic.
We are live. We are not live, but we are still recording.
Okay.
This. Yeah, it's
So
good
was
for
it-
the
was
back
it-
scenes. Yeah.
Was it good?
Wow.
See, I don't know that, because for me it's not that I'm just like.
Just a moment of honesty. Did you mean to shock us?
What?
Because we were all fun, and then you started the story and you put us on shock.
No, I didn't
No.
mean. I thought you guys knew the story.
No, I didn't know anything.
What?
No.
Really? So now you have a new.
So the internet didn't tell the whole story.
No, and in fact, I never go this deep.
Uh-huh.
But I just thought.